The Florida Gators held their first scrimmage on Saturday, and, well, there are some notes.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. Even while I was in Mexico for a week, we were here every single day, and we always will be. Happy Monday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is picking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And, yeah, the Florida Gators held their first scrimmage of fall camp this past Saturday. And there's been some reports that came out that are less than stellar. Jamari Lyons, of course, got injured. We will talk about that in the next few minutes. But first, we are going to talk about the offensive line, because last season, the offensive line was nothing short of horrible, right? And don't get me wrong, it wasn't exclusively on them, right? They have a quarterback in Graham Mertz that's not super mobile. He sometimes holds the ball too long instead of throwing it away. But he was pressured 120 times last year. Max Brown was pressured another 20. And a lot of that comes on the offensive line. Okay? Especially when you consider how many quick little pop passes that the offense ran. There were a lot of pressures on just normal dropbacks or play action passes. Again, when you take out all those little pop passes that they ran to Trey Wilson or anybody throughout the course of the season, Ricky Pearsall included, they're like the drop back passing style had a lot of pressures. Again, they didn't drop back a ton, but when they did, things happened. And so when you look at when throwing short, so less than 10 yards past the line of scrimmage, but past the line of scrimmage, Graham threw 122 of those passes, and he was pressured on 25 of them. Pressured on 22 passes that went medium. He was pressured on 10 passes that went behind the line of scrimmage, although I think we know that those are where they have the jet motion, and he kind of just waits in the flat behind the line, and then he checks it down there. Offensive line was really bad last year. This past offseason, you lost Richie Leonard to Florida State. You lost Micah Mazuka to, I believe it was Nebraska. You brought in Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon from San Diego State. You moved Damian George from right tackle to right guard. And you're expecting Najee Harris to take over at left guard. You've got Jake Slaughter coming back at center after a very good season last year. And Austin Barber, after a very bad but injured season last year, is back at left tackle. Got it? Good. But the reports have been that the right side of the offensive line, particularly, have been struggling. Whether that's Damian George. You look at the clips that they put out from practice, and you see Damian George getting pushed back. Power is an issue for him. It's always been an issue, specifically in pass protection. Not so much run blocking, but in pass protection, it's been an issue. That was my main thing about moving him to guard. Why I'm not sold on it, and why I need to see it. I'm still not saying that I'm sold that he's bad. I refuse to do that until we get to the game, okay? Personally, I don't want him there, but I'm not going to say that he's bad at that spot because we haven't seen him there in an actual game, okay? What I will say is that power was a big issue for him last year as a pass protector. Need I remind you, Jared Verse threw him into Max Brown with one hand, okay? You're going to face some pretty powerful people on the interior of the offensive line as well. So that's still a concern for me. Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon stepping up from the Mountain West to the SEC was always a risk there. And like I said, on paper, like I've said all offseason, on paper, the Florida Gators improved their offensive line. But the game isn't played on paper, is it? And I will say this also, for all the people, I feel like yesterday when Dave Waters sent his tweet out a bunch of people kind of went into the sky is falling mode. It's concerning, but I'm not too concerned yet. And that's just a general approach that I'm going to take towards things. I cover the New York Giants as well for Sports Illustrated, as many of you know. And their offensive line, really bad, right? Last year was horrible, worse than the NFL. They set the record for modern day pressures allowed in the NFL. Really bad. I've got the same take there. I say with the Giants, a week or two before the season, and then I'll be concerned. With the Gators, a week or two before the season, and I'll be concerned. So that means, Florida Gators, you've got this week to clean it up. If it's not tightened up by the end of this week, then I will be concerned. But that's just my stance on things, right? Is just I've said this consistently, and I feel like I've been very consistent in this. Offensive line for me is more about the chemistry of the unit than the individual specific players. Okay, I do think that offensive line is one of those areas where you can have just guys who aren't, all-American caliber players, but know how to work together and have a good chemistry and have built that rapport, right? This offensive line has been practicing together for less than 2 weeks. That Austin Barber missed the spring. He was out. So this offensive line, now that Austin Barber's back, just started practicing together. That's my main reason for not being concerned. Yet. You can't go into the season like this. But my main reason for not being concerned yet is that just philosophically, I've always said offensive line as a unit, more important than offensive line as individual players. Offensive line needs to develop chemistry. They need to be able to play off of each other well. They haven't been able to do that yet. Okay? They were banged up in the spring, and chemistry matters. Now that Austin Barber's back, you're playing with what is likely your starting group, right? The guys who play with the ones in practice and scrimmage are probably going to be the guys that are playing with the ones during the season. So now it matters. But again, this is just too. And I'd probably even have a different take if Austin Barber was healthy and they practiced together in the spring and we're still looking rough. Then I'd be more concerned. But I understand that right now you've got, less than 2 weeks together. Camp opened, 13 days ago? And they don't practice every single day, right? And they don't pad it up every single day, right? So I think that right now, that's why I'm not panicking. I'm not ready to push that panic button. End of this week, if there's not anything, then I'll be concerned. And at the end of next week, if there's nothing positive still, or if there's not more positivity. Because from what we've heard, the left side and the center, good still offensive line. It's just the right side figuring that out. So we've still got some time to figure things out. And that chemistry is a big point of it, right? That's always going to be a big thing for me is the offensive line chemistry. That 5=1 thing. I know that a lot of people can make fun of it and a lot of people can take their jabs at 5=1. But it's true with the offensive line. It's about playing like a unit. And right now they have not been able to do that and develop that chemistry. So it's not promising, obviously, and I'm not happy to hear about the offensive line struggling for whatever reason they might be struggling for. But I'm also not going to panic when I understand that, hey, they are just getting to play together. Like they haven't had the chance to develop anything. And so that's why it doesn't kill me. Again, I'm not happy with it. I'm not saying things are going to be fine. I don't know if they're going to be fine. But when you can identify why things are going the way they're going, and you go, okay, well, this is one of those things where time and experience just helps you. I'm okay accepting that for what it is. And I'm also okay accepting that even at the beginning of the year, if they're rough, if they're healthy, they should still be improving throughout the season when things get tough, right? Hopefully, at least. I don't know if that's me being overly optimistic. I don't think it is. I think it's just me saying, hey, chemistry matters, and I will wait to see chemistry there. I think that's fair. We are about to talk about the Jamari Lyons injury next on Locked On Gators. With passion, drive, and patience, that's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance with superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your parts guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. For the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply, and eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Also, thank you to everybody that's been tuning into our College Football 25 dynasties. We've got Baruch. We've got Florida is one where we're running Billy Napier style, and we're trying that one. And we've got Nevada where we're the offensive coordinator. That's over on the Whole Nine Sports YouTube channel. So check that out if you want to. It's appreciated. Links in the description below. But the Florida Gators, unfortunately, on Saturday did lose a player for. I'm not going to say definitively how long he's out. Billy Napier should have a press conference early this afternoon, or so early on Monday afternoon, where he gives some more information about that. But my expectations will be that Jamari Lyons will miss most, if not all, of the 2024 season. All we really know during the scrimmage on Saturday is that relatively early on, he got injured. He got carted off the field with an air cast on his leg. Usually means you broke something, right? And then he went into surgery afterward. I do think that when Billy Napier speaks to the media, he will tell us probably not going to have Jamari Lyons for the 2024 season, which is very unfortunate because there were high expectations surrounding him, right? He showed flashes in 2023. We had heard, oh yeah, he's really working out with Gerald Chapman. I mean, a week or 2 weeks ago, I was on the show and I was like, hey, I think that Jamari Lyons is one of those players that's going to be a breakout guy this year. I think he's just a really good fit for Gerald Chapman. And I think they could really fit this defense. Unfortunate. That's honestly like one of the worst things about fall camp injuries, for me at least, is not, oh, what are we going to do without that guy? Like, what's Florida going to do without Jamari Lyons? It's more so you only get, unless you're a Miami tight end, you only get 5, maybe 6 seasons of college ball. If you can prove yourself and get to the NFL, then you can continue playing. But, I mean, and you can get medical red shirts, of course, but, like, that's not the ideal situation, right? You don't want to be, oh yeah, I get another year of eligibility, at least in my medical red shirt, because that means when it comes time for the NFL, you're going to be 1 year older, and that means you're less valuable there. And so I just hate that kids lose opportunities. Can't stand it, but that's an unfortunate part of football. And again, in the grand scheme of things, it's football. Injuries happen. If you've played football, you've been injured at some point, probably. If you've played football and you haven't been injured, consider yourself lucky, because injuries happen a lot there. As far as the team building aspect or the team aspect for the Florida Gators, I am curious how they replace Jamari Lyons. So again, I wish him nothing but the speediest recovery. But I'm just curious how the Florida Gators plan on replacing him, because Jamari Lyons primarily plays nose tackle. I do think that he's versatile enough to play 3-tech. However, that's obviously no longer an option. I don't know if the expectation is, because the thought process at nose tackle was that Cam Jackson's going to be your starter. Jamari Lyons is going to play a good bit. Desmond Watson will play less than Jamari Lyons. He's going to be nose tackle 3, and DeAndre Robinson might play a little bit in a big blowout, but probably won't in meaningful time. So now, is it Cam Jackson's going to be your nose tackle? Des Watson is back to nose tackle 2. And then you have DeAndre Robinson as your third nose tackle, who will probably need to play because I don't think Cam and Des are going to play a ton. just because they don't offer much pass rush upside. That's been my main thing. I don't think they do that. Me personally, my plan to replace Jamari Lyons would be whoever you feel more comfortable with, Joey Slackman or Caleb Banks, playing at nose rotationally. We saw Caleb Banks do it last season for Florida. We saw him play nose tackle. Again, not something he did frequently, not something that he did often, and not something that I want him to do often. But if he's your best option to rotate in there, then let him rotate in there. Again, didn't do it often last year. I don't want him to do it this year, but if he's going to be your guy that can play in, he's going to be your guy that can play in. Especially in passing downs, I think you can make that sacrifice. Early rundowns, probably not. But if you get into, 3rd and 6 or longer, I'm totally content going, okay, yep, put them both in there. Because I think that what you can do at nose tackle, you have Cam Jackson starting. And again, I think Cam Jackson's a good nose tackle. I know that a lot of Florida Gators fans have I don't want to say turned on him because it's not like he's been here super long to have that big buy-in. But I think that a lot of Florida Gators fans have kind of soured on him a little bit, mostly because he doesn't offer much pass rush upside. But I think that he plays his role pretty damn well. And if he can string together more consistency, we're cooking. Like, again, the Tennessee games, what we always talk about with him, if he can do that on a more consistent basis, damn good nose tackle. But I think when you look at nose, you have Cam Jackson starting nose tackle. Then your nose tackle 2 is either Joey Slackman or Caleb Banks. Then your nose tackle 3, I guess, would be Des Watson and then DeAndre Robinson. And so you can have, just hypothetically, your starting nose tackles or your starting defensive tackles. Cam Jackson at the nose, Caleb Banks at the 3 tech, the big end spot, right? Then you can have Caleb Banks slide over to nose, Joey Slackman go to 3 tech or the big end. And then you can have Kelby Collins and Breon Taylor Jr. also play that 3 tech spot. I think that the issue that you run into there is that, let's say it's Caleb Banks that you rotate. He starts at 3 tech, moves into nose tackle, and then you have the rotations going on. Caleb Banks is probably going to play a lot. That's tough to do on the defensive line. Like, it's tough to go in there and go, hey, you're going to go ahead and play 55 snaps, 50 snaps, whatever it may be, defensively. That's how many you're going to play in this game. Like last year, Jordan Castell played 55 snaps per game on average. Caleb Banks played more snaps than anyone else on your defensive interior, and he played 30. If he is your starting 3 tech, big end, whatever you want to call it, and he's your nose tackle 2, he's going to be playing more than 30 snaps per game. Which also last year, he rotated in around. They tried a lot with rotations. Chris McClellan was also there. Cam Jackson did miss a game, and that impacted things. But you just lost 200 snaps from last year, and you lost what was probably going to be closer to 280, 300 from what would have been Jamari Lyons this year, which is a really unfortunate spot to be in. I think that you're in a tough spot either way. I think you can go Cam at nose, Banks at 3 tech, then maybe Dez comes in as your second nose tackle. Joey Slackman comes in as your 3 tech. Caleb Banks plays a little bit at nose. It's going to be a really interesting situation for the Florida Gators. Again, I think this is one of those times where, similar to the Montrell Johnson injury, you go, okay, it's a crappy injury. There's no way around it, right? But we've got a few weeks to figure things out. And I think that's where you can kind of prep yourself. Maybe you play Joey Slackman or Caleb Banks, whoever doesn't win that 3 tech big end spot, play them primarily at the nose. Jamari Lyons is a similar size to Joey Slackman and Caleb Banks, like weight-wise. Obviously, height-wise, not everything's going to line up. These guys are very different heights, and that matters. But when you look at Cam Jackson's 342, he's a giant. Caleb Banks, 325. He's a similar size. He's 15 pounds lighter, but height-wise, similar size to Cam Jackson. maybe you go, hey, start Cam, put Joey Slackman at 3 tech, and then make Caleb Banks your nose tackle 2, or Caleb Banks your nose tackle 1, whatever it may be, whoever you feel is best. And you go, hey, Kelby Collins, you're going to play more. Tyreek Sapp, you're going to play more of the big end spot, whatever it is. But again, I do think that you're in a good spot where you go, hey, we've got a couple of weeks to figure this out. It's a crappy injury. It sucks. It's unfortunate. But the reality is this is football. It happens. Got to figure out what you're going to do next. And I think that you have options. I don't know that all of them are good options, but I think that you've got enough good options where I'm not heartbroken in terms of the season outlook. Heartbroken for Jamari Lyons. Absolutely sucks to get an injury like that. And speaking of injuries, speaking of Montreal Johnson, you do still have to replace him. We'll talk about the running backs in this scrimmage next on Locked On Gators. I love sports, and I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as playoffs wind down, the Olympics could put USA gold medals there. Sports just aren't sporting like I want them to, right? We've pretty much just got baseball and preseason NFL, which I don't bet on because that's silly. FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up anytime I want. Dream up bets. And this summer, FanDuel's still offering all customers a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. And remember that FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free breakfast in the podcast and on YouTube. And yes, we still don't have much clarity from Billy Napier on Montreal Johnson's status. Montreal Johnson is, again, he's probably going to be a player that we get an update on. Hopefully we get an update on when Billy Napier speaks to media on Monday afternoon. I will say this. I know that when the Montreal Johnson injury news came out, I was like, hey, 6 to 8 weeks would be my expectation. And of course, the reports came out and it was like, oh, well, they're ruling Montreal Johnson as week to week. And I told the Subtext Insiders this, which the link's in the description below if you want to become an insider. That means nothing to me, saying week to week. That, to me, that's not an optimistic answer. I know a lot of people go, oh, week to week, which means, hell, maybe not this week, but maybe next week he's full go. That's not how I look at it. I look at it from the stance of going, well, if he's week to week, that means every week you are evaluating if he's returning, right? And when he returns, he's probably not going to be just like, oh, I'm good to go, 100%. Let's do it right now. So the way I look at it is week to week means that he's probably going to miss a month or so. That's how I look at it. With every injury that you tell me is week to week, I say, okay, he's probably going to miss a month or so. I don't think Montreal will play in the Miami game. That's still my opinion. I know that. And I said this the day that the injury news came out, the day that we put out an emergency episode when the news came out. And what did I say on that? If I'm Florida, I'm saying he'll be back in 3 to 4 weeks. Miami game, we're not going to rule him out. There's still a very real chance he's going to be back because you need Miami to prepare for him, right? But I don't think that that's actually going to happen. I don't think he'll play in the Miami game. I don't think he's going to miss the year, of course, but I don't think he'll play in the Miami game. I think that Treon Webb, and I still think Treon Webb, will take the bulk of the load as, I don't even want to say the bulk of the load because I do think that they'll be relatively split between touches and just snaps played, depending on, of course, how long drives last. They might just go, hey, Treon, you're the first drive. Jacoby Jackson, you're the second. Jaden Ball, you're the third, whatever it may be. And those drives could be longer, shorter, whatever it may be. But I think Treon Webb will be the first back to step onto the field. Jacoby Jackson, who I just mentioned, sounds like he's going to play a good bit. I mean, you look at the spring game, and he had a good game in the spring game. Runs physical as hell. That's always been a thing of his, though. He's always been a very physical runner. My main concern, and I said this in that Montreal Johnson emergency episode, was that Jacoby Jackson is someone to me that I question his long speed, but that's also not super restrictive when you're talking about a running back. Like running backs, it's nice to have, an 80-yard run to start it. It's nice to have these long, massive gains, right? But realistically, what I need from a running back is consistency. And I think Jacoby Jackson can give you that. I question his ceiling. I do. But I've said he's got a nice burst. He gets to his top speed very quickly. I just don't think that his top speed's that fast. But who knows? Maybe Jacoby Jackson is a Carlos Hyde type back where it's like, well, you need 3 yards? He's going to get you 4. You need 4 yards? He's going to get you 4. You need 5 yards? He's going to get you 4 kind of guy. Just consistent gains that, obviously, again, you prefer more explosive runs, but he keeps you on schedule. I think that he's really physical and really violent. I do think that he'll pop some runs just from plowing through defenders. But I think that you can expect consistent gains from him. And when we're talking about, and as much as some Florida Gators fans might hate me saying this, when we're talking about Billy Napier and the Florida Gators, it's about efficiency, staying on schedule, keeping going, move the sticks, keep the time, keep the ball. He does that for you. And he's one of the more experienced guys. I know he's only been in Gainesville. This is his second season in Gainesville, but he's a JUCO guy. Like, he's been in college. He's available. He knows what he's doing. Then, I think it was On3 reported after the scrimmage on Saturday that true freshman Jaden Baugh looks good in pass pro. I'm intrigued. I will say this. That's subjective, I guess. Again, pass pro, if you're good or not, there's levels to it, right? A lot of pass pros just want to. And Jaden Ball is a big running back. So if he wants to, he can get his hands on you, or even if he doesn't get his hands on you, he can slow you down enough by just getting in your path. Because a lot of times with a running back, that's like bare minimum. If you could do that, that's passable by, I think, a lot of coaches. Not desired, and it's not what I think is good enough. But I do think that a lot of coaches will go, hey, well, I'll live with that. Like, I'll live with you just getting in the way and slowing him down a little bit. So I'm interested to see if it's that or if it's actually the good technique and how he picks up blocks. But if Jaden Ball actually is good in pass protection, if that's a thing that's true, I don't know how you keep him off the field for long. I don't. If he could do that to separate from Treon Webb, Jacoby Jackson, KD Daniels, whoever else is in the backfield at that time, depending on health and just who's earning reps. If he can pass block, I think you got to put him on the field, especially while we're sitting here going, oh, the offensive line's struggling. You tell me the offensive line's struggling, I'm assuming Hayden's about to be in pass protection for 30% of his snaps again. Okay. I get that. I hate it, but I get it. So you tell me he's struggling, I'm assuming that. However, if you have Jaden Ball that can do that as well, help out, or he could be the pass pro guy instead of Hayden out there, and then you could put Arliss out there more, whatever it is. But I think that when you go, oh, the offensive line is reportedly still struggling. By the way, Jaden Ball looks pretty good in pass pro. I think it's worth a conversation to say, hey, I don't know how you keep him off the field if he can pass block. Simple as that. And I know that a lot of people will overlook pass blocking. And when players transfer, all of a sudden, pass blocking is a major issue. But on this show, and throughout the 8 years that I've been covering football, running backs and pass protection matters to me. And so I need to see it. I do. But if he's getting pass pro, I don't know how you keep him off the field. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. Again, daily, free, YouTube, wherever you listen to the podcast. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Don't forget to check out our College Football 25 and soon Madden content with Whole Nine Sports, WHOLENINE Sports on YouTube. And I will see you all next time.